A towering lighthouse perched on the edge of a crumbling cliff.
We are one storm away from being in trouble.
Can a rescue team move it safely inland before it topples over?
Something's falling out there.
Sankaty Head Lighthouse on the island of Nantucket has protected local fishermen for over 150 years. But now this working lighthouse is perilously close to falling off the cliff. For the island's residents, it holds a special place in their hearts.
A lighthouse hug is something as you first get here, you rush right up and you just hug her. I've been doing it for 77 years. It's the most important little place on this whole island.
Oh, Sankaty, we love you.
You can see it's a touchstone for the island, and people see it when they come into the harbor, so it's an icon for the whole island.
For over a century, Nantucket, Massachusetts was the whaling capital of the world. Its harbors were filled with ships loading precious whale oil. Sankaty Lighthouse has always been an essential beacon on this notoriously stormy North Atlantic coastline. The island has suffered terrible erosion as a result of intense storms. In October 1991, a violent hurricane hit America's east coast. Winds blasted over the ocean at around 100 kilometers per hour. Enormous waves tore into Nantucket's coastline for 5 consecutive nights. 5 meters of Sankaty's cliff face collapsed in the year of the so-called perfect storm. Time was running out. One more bad storm could leave this lighthouse dashed on the rocks below. More than 10 buildings have already fallen off the cliff's edge.
The erosion at the bluff edge here at Sankaty Head has accelerated to an average of 3 feet of loss a year. And what I've been telling everybody is that we are one storm away from being in trouble.
The islanders have raised over £2 million to save their beloved lighthouse. Geologists have calculated the lighthouse must be moved 123 meters inland. They hope this will protect it for over 100 years. But the fragile geology of this island will always be vulnerable to Atlantic storms. This tall, heavy structure presents a tough challenge for the movers. There's no shortage of ingenious ideas.
They could put it on a catapult and launch it over, aim it right onto the spot.
I think they might take off the top half and and then load the bottom half and the top half into 2 or 4 dump trucks.
You get 1,000 moles and you put leashes on them, and the moles dig under the ground and go over to the other spot where they're moving the lighthouse.
The islanders call in one of America's leading movers, Jerry Matiko, to devise a more practical alternative.
There's 3 ways to move this lighthouse. The first way to move this building, we can get a person up on top and take it down 1 brick at a time.
If a structure is too fragile to move, dismantling may be the only answer. This historic watchtower in Dorset was just 7 meters away from a collapsing cliff edge. It was too precarious to move intact, so movers painstakingly numbered each of its 16,000 bricks and dismantled the tower stone by stone. By the time it's finally rebuilt 25 meters inland, it will have taken 2 years. But Jerry doesn't have that long. In 2 years, the crumbling cliff could claim Sankaty.
The second way to move in this lighthouse is to cut it in half.
craning a building in sections is much faster. This method was used in Nova Scotia, Canada, when a wooden lighthouse appeared to vanish into the night. Most residents knew nothing of the Coast Guard's plan to slice the structure in half with chainsaws. The movers quickly loaded the two sections into a truck and drove off, leaving the neighbors wondering where it had gone. Eventually, they found it in the grounds of the Coast Guard College 400 kilometers away. After years of campaigning, the lighthouse was finally returned. But Sankaty is too difficult to cut, so Jerry faces the daunting prospect of moving the entire tower in one go.
Our preferred method is to pick this thing up in one piece, set it on rollers, take it down the hill, and set it on a new foundation, and we're done. If expert house movers doesn't move it, Mother Nature will move it, and I don't think you want that.
As the hurricane season is already underway, Jerry is anxious to start. He's given the team 2 months to move this 500-ton lighthouse inland.
Today is a momentous day. We are going to close down the light today. And what we'd like to do is raise our glasses to that beautiful lighthouse, Sankaty Head Light, and wish her a safe voyage to her new location. So, hear, hear.
De-energized.
There we go!
On the island of Nantucket off Massachusetts, Jerry's working out the best way of moving this 500-ton lighthouse from the cliff edge. Close inspection reveals it's in a fragile state.
This is typical of moisture getting behind the paint, the stucco. Then it freezes, and then the face of the brick pops off. And then you get more moisture in. And then it freezes, and more pops off.
Extreme weather has damaged the structural integrity of the lighthouse walls. Strong winds blast rain into the porous brickwork. This freezes during the winter, and when the ice expands, cracks form in the masonry. To stop these cracks widening during the move, they must build a support collar around the lighthouse walls. Wooden struts protect the brickwork against high-tension cables that will grip the structure in a rigid embrace.
All right, we're going to test the tension on this, so we'll set our cigar up here. If the cigar falls off, it's not tight enough. So you can see that each one of them is taut.
Inside the lighthouse, Jerry faces another major problem.
We've got a spiral staircase here. All these steps are cast steel. Now, it's only supported at the base, and there's a hole in this granite rock that the pipe goes into it.
The spiral staircase is made of 62 steel steps. They thread like beads along a steel column anchored firmly in the lighthouse foundations. When they lift the lighthouse off its footings, this column will no longer be supported, and the steps could unwind. To prevent this happening, the team must suspend the staircase from the upper deck of the lighthouse. A web of steel cables bind the bottom steps to the top. They're attached to a steel frame under the upper floor. So the entire staircase is clamped rigid while the lighthouse is in motion.
It's just about snug now. The cables are definitely 10 times stronger than what you need.
With the building secured, Jerry is now ready to lift it off the ground. A tall building with such a narrow base poses an obvious problem. Jerry works with project manager Joe Jakobic to design a lifting rig.
The existing foundation was essentially the size of this circle. And what we're doing is we're increasing the size of the foundation. We're building this support frame underneath it, and we're taking this very concentrated load and spreading it out over a much larger frame, both this way and this way.
To install the support beams for Joe's lifting rig, they must first cut a series of deep holes into the lighthouse base. The positioning of these holes is critical. If Jerry cuts too many, or they are too wide, the bottom of the building will lose strength.
Let's rock and roll.
The walls are over 1 meter thick, and so tough that only diamond-tipped chainsaws will cut through them. It takes 2 weeks to cut 10 holes through the solid brick walls.
Success.
Now they're ready to insert the steel beams that will support the entire weight of the lighthouse. These distribute the load evenly onto a bed of hydraulic jacks, which will lift the structure, like jacking up a car to change a wheel. When they raise up the jacks, they're gambling the building will break away from its base along a clean crack line. But if the bottom is left with jagged edges, they could snag on the bumpy terrain ahead.
Up around the beam, wrap it around the beam.
When they thread through the beams, the structure is at its most vulnerable. Any mistakes, and the lighthouse could topple over.
Hold on.
It's another day in paradise.
We'll pick up on the lever for lifting, raising. And when my gauges quit raising, when they hold steady, that means the building's coming up.
With such a tall, thin structure, it's vital the lighthouse remains perfectly level throughout the lift. Jerry knows the slightest lean will tip the building off balance.
Mike, you ready to get up? Okay. Coming up, guys. Concentrate on all these gauges. One jack messes up, the pressure will rise on the gauge.
The team watch anxiously for the crack to form between the building and its base.
Separating on the bottom, Jerry. Let me know when you get 7 inches.
But they've hit a problem. The crack does not form at all. An extra meter of stonework remains attached to the bottom. This extra brickwork that's come up with the building could drag along the ground if they attempt to move it.
Well, we're going to knock that part off because I've got some beams coming through here. And we're going to knock all this out, dig this out in a little while.
Jerry calls in his bulldozer to knock the base off. But Mike sees that each time they ram it with the 15-ton bulldozer, the whole building shudders ominously. Their only option is to remove the base by hand.
Looks like get your electric jackhammers out, boys.
As they hammer away at the base, they know there's 500 tons of masonry precariously suspended above their heads. It's 7:30 a.m. on Nantucket, the big move day for the lighthouse. A wide dirt path 120 meters long points the way to the new location. But can this terrain support such a heavy load?
This terrain is a little bit snaky on us. Parts of it are real good. It's clay mixed with sand. supports very well. Other parts are very sandy and loose.
Most moves rely on independently steerable wheels. But driving such a tall and heavy structure across sand could be risky. The tires could sink into the unstable terrain and throw the tower off balance. So they planned to mount the lighthouse on rails and roll it to its new foundations. 2 hydraulic pistons positioned at the rear of the lighthouse will steadily push the building 1.5 meters at a time. When it reaches the end of the line, the team leapfrog the rails to continue the journey.
It's almost like watching an inchworm crawl, you know. As these rams stroke out about 66 inches, we stop, we release the jack-in-a-box, suck it back up, lock the jack-in-a-box, and go again.
The islanders come to launch this precious landmark on its voyage inland.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. They'll only move this lighthouse once, hopefully. It's a beautiful day, the sun is out, very little wind, so we hope everything goes well.
Bon voyage, Sankaty. It's been a long time coming. Let's hope it's not a long time going.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody ready? Yes! Yeah!
There she goes.
The lighthouse inches forward on 16 sets of steel rollers.
Is it moving?
Yeah.
Yep, that thing's moving all right.
Yeah, I bet you can see it.
You can see it? Well, it's also moving that way.
2 pistons at the rear provide the pushing power. But progress is extremely slow. It takes 2 hours to move 1.5 meters. The islanders are getting so impatient, they grease the rails with whale oil in the hope of speeding things up.
Here we go, Betsy.
I think you need to spread it a little bit. Y'all been going so slow.
Okay, Betsy doesn't think we're doing it the right way. Good. There we go.
I hope it doesn't work so well that the lighthouse ends up in the middle of the golf course. Let's see what happens.
The whale oil seems to do the trick, and the lighthouse moves away from the cliff edge. Every 12 meters, the team leapfrogs the rails to keep the lighthouse on track. Each beam weighs almost 3 tons and would take dozens of people to lift. Even with a bulldozer, it's a time-consuming process. They hit the ground running, but with so much pressure resting on the 16 sets of rollers, it's only a matter of time before something gives.
Watch your rollers, it ain't fitting. Somebody say oh.
You or me?
That was you.
That was me.
Something's falling out there.
One of the rollers is broken, throwing the lighthouse dangerously off balance.
Mike, you okay?
See, Will, that's what broke right here. See these little washers here? See how it's got these little washers on it? As it's rolling, see, it goes side to side, and it just wears and wears on that washer.
Jerry must move quickly. He needs to make the lighthouse upright again. If it leans too far out, the imbalanced load on the walls could damage the structure.
We're lowering the right-hand side, the ocean side. Lock it off, Mike. Plumb Bob's reading right and the level's reading correct. She's back on her own again. Now we'll go back pushing again.
The lighthouse leaves the cliff edge and moves further inland until they brace themselves for the next challenge, a downhill run. On Nantucket, after 3 days, the lighthouse is halfway through its journey and has reached a steep slope on the soft sand.
The grade is starting to drop off rapidly. We're going to come down a little over 10 foot in height. So things get a little more complicated, we're going to slow down.
The new foundations are 4 meters lower than the old footings, and this presents a major problem for the movers. If the rails follow the line of the hill, then when the lighthouse sets off, it will tilt forward, putting huge stresses on the outer walls. To avoid this, they decide to build a series of steps to keep the lighthouse level along the route. At each step, they will transfer the weight of the structure off the jacks onto temporary wooden towers. They then release the jacks and remove the support blocks to lower the lighthouse down to ground level.
Look good? Coming down. That's what that noise is. It's going down.
It takes 3 hours to lower the lighthouse down the first step. Once the rails are resting back on the wooden towers, they can transfer the lighthouse's weight to the jacks and begin inching it forward again. Every 15 meters, they repeat the lowering routine. The lighthouse is now only 9 meters away from its new foundation. If the tracks are even slightly off course, they will miss the target, and reversing is not an option.
You have to keep your guard up right till it's down to where it's going to be for 100 years.
After 9 days of pushing, the final destination is tantalizingly close.
We're getting closer and closer. Keep on going.
It's all running straight. Everything's going just like planned.
Jerry checks a plumb bob to make sure the lighthouse is precisely aligned over its new resting place.
Okay, Jerry. 3 inches.
Moving a 500-ton structure with such precision is an incredible feat.
I bet he keeps pushing it, won't let up quick enough. Whoa! Give me an inch. Half inch. Just touch it. Oh! That's it, folks.
Yeah.
Hey! Good one. Good job, Joe Jacobek. Thank you.
After 2 months of hard work, the lighthouse touches down. Sankaty Head Light can guard the shores of Nantucket once again.